so much I'm just having to kind of skip over on this. Let's go to number 12, which has to do with music. And I want to spend the rest of my time on this because more than anything else, what positions your church in your community is your music. It's the number one positioning factor of your church in the community. A lot of different people will listen to your preaching, but the moment you choose a music style, you're telling me who you're going to reach and who you're never going to reach. No style can appeal to everybody. So there's no magic bullet style that everybody likes. The only right thing is, does it match your target, which we talked about earlier. Now here's the 12th thing in building a service to evangelize unbelievers. Match your music to your target. There's no right kind of music. There's no wrong kind of music. The only wrong kind is the kind that you use because it's what the pastor likes. What I like is irrelevant. What matters is this music that non-believers will understand in this area. That's the most important thing. Not does the worship leader like it, not does the band want to play it. Not is it cool or hip or sexy or current. Does it match who we're trying to reach? That's the thing. It's not what I care about. It's not what you care about. Music is the number one pastor. You know, I've been asked many, many times, Rick, over all the years, if you could do one thing differently, what would you do differently at Saddleback? My two biggest mistakes in this church both had to do with music. So I'm going to tell them to you right now. The first mistake was I underestimated music's importance and power to persuade. I didn't have any clue how important music was when I first started the church. And so we underestimated it. We didn't have a full-time worship leader for a long time. And in the early days, we minimized the music of the service. Sometimes we'd sing one song and boom, it's right into something else. I regret that now because a song can often touch people in ways that a sermon can't. You know, music, I can be preaching my heart out and people have their mental barriers up. But I've seen this time and time again. A certain song, it bypasses all the intellectual barriers and goes straight to the heart, and a tear starts coming down the face. That is the power of music. It is a powerful tool for evangelism. In Psalm 40, verse 3, we've covered this many times. He put a new song in my mouth. Many people will see it and worship him, and then they will trust the Lord. You know, Aristotle once said, music has the power to shape character. And today, the lyrics of popular music are shaping the values of an entire generation. And I don't know if you listen to those lyrics, but they're not good. They are not good. They are so narcissistic, and they're over-sexualized and over-sensualized, and they demean women, and on and on and on. And the words are going right into the minds because the music is cool. It's catchy. I heard a song the other day. It was a catchy song, a new song, and the whole theme of it was masturbation. And I'm thinking, how many young girls are going to go around singing that little song because that girl's cute and that song's cute, and the lyrics are terrible. Terrible. I underestimated the power of music. Contemporary music is a force we cannot ignore. Music is the number one communicator of values in the world today. People get their values primarily from music more than anything else because they come in the side door. And if we don't use it to communicate godly values, then Satan's going to have unchallenged access to literally billions of people. So I underestimated the importance of music. Now, it's extremely important in a service because in a service, music might be 20 or 30% or more of your service, and it's the first 20 to 30%. Which means if you lose them in the music, they've already checked out before you're taking them into the text and into the Word of God. It's important because it's there, but it's also, if it's not done right, you might lose them and they're already checked out. The second biggest mistake that I made in music was this, is that we tried to appeal to everyone's taste. And you can't do it. In the early years, we used to joke about going from Bach to rock. And in one service, we'd have an easy listening number, and then a choir number, and then a pop number, and then a rock number, then a jazz, then a heavy metal, then an easy listening, and then a classical, then a country. And then who did we appeal to? Nobody. We just made everybody mad. You cannot blend your music. It just doesn't work. You can try, but it doesn't work. It ends up just offending. It's like, I don't like that song, you don't like that song, and whatever. And we mixed all these styles, and blending your music's kind of like kissing your sister. You could do it, but who'd want to? So in 1984, I took a survey. I stood up on Sunday, and I passed out a little white card, there's nothing on it, to everybody. And I said, write down the call letters of the radio station you listen to. Not an audience of believers and unbelievers. Write down the call letters of the radio station you listen to. When I got them all back, I didn't have a single person who's saying, I'm looking for organ music or choir music. And when I got that information back, it was pretty much contemporary of the road pop sound. It wasn't hip hop. It wasn't heavy metal. It wasn't even rock. It was pretty much contemporary, adult, middle-of-the-road pop. And so we made a strategic decision on that day to change our style to adult, middle-of-the-road, contemporary pop. And it's loud. And as a result of that decision, we lost hundreds, over the years, hundreds of members. Because I said, it's too loud, it's too pop, and we lost hundreds of members. But we gained thousands. Thousands. No matter what style you choose, you're going to lose people. The key is, what style is going to reach the target you're going after? And if you're in some parts of the country, you're going to need to use reggae. And if you're in another part, you might use country. In the 36 years Saddleback has been a church, we've used 4 different styles of music. We've changed it 4 times. Why? Because culture changed. You wouldn't want a church that sounded like 80s music today, because it changes. So we tried to appeal to everybody's taste. We did, but we're unapologetically contemporary. We're loud. We match the target. About 90% of all albums sold today are that kind of adult contemporary pop. This is a major decision. A lot of churches have had worship wars for decades. But I just want to remind you this important truth. There is no such thing as Christian music. It doesn't exist. There are no such thing as Christian music. There are only Christian lyrics. There are no Christian tunes. If I were to put on a record here this morning, anybody remember records? Yeah, they're actually coming back for some, retro stuff. But if I were to put on a record this morning, and it was all instrumental and played it, you wouldn't know if it's a Christian song or not. Because it's not the words it's not the tune that make a song Christian. There are 1,000 appropriate tunes. It's the word. The words are sacred, not the tune. You can expect disagreement in whatever style you choose. I remember this old quote from Jim Dobson on his radio show. He said, of all the subjects that we've covered on Focus on the Family radio program, from abortion to pornography to whatever, the single most controversial subject we've ever dealt with was church music. You can make people more mad about music more quickly than anything else. I learned this the hard way. It's not by accident. Spurgeon used to call his music department the War Department. The War Department. And I want to remind you that the first murder was over a worship practice. Cain killed his brother over the way he worshiped. And brothers have been killing brothers and spilling blood over worship practices for thousands of years. So it's not going to go away. No matter what style you use, somebody's not going to like it. The important thing is not whether I like it or you like it, but does it meet the people that God has called us to reach in this area? That's important. But there is no such thing as Christian music. Sometimes you'll hear people say, well, I think we just need to get back to our roots in music. Well, how far back do you want to go? Gregorian chant? Really, what they usually mean by that, I want to go back to the music that I learned as a little kid in school, at Sunday school. What if my roots are in Asia? What if my roots are in Africa? To insist that all good music came out of Europe 300 years ago, there's a word for that, racism. It's not like European music's better than African music or Middle Eastern music. It's just where you grew up. I want to read this to you. There was a prominent American pastor, and he listed the following reasons for opposing the new styles of music in worship. Here's what he said. He said, it's too new, it's an unknown language, like an unknown language. This is a very prominent American pastor. It's not as melodious as the more established styles. There are so many new songs, it's impossible to learn them. It causes people to act indecently and disorderly. It places too much emphasis on the instruments and the music rather than the godly lyrics. He said the new lyrics are often worldly. The new music is not needed since preceding generations have gone to heaven without it. He said the new music is a contrivance just to make money. And he says these contemporary musicians are lewd and they're loose people. That famous American pastor was a guy named Thomas Sims. He compiled this in his book, The History of Church Music, which was published in 1723. And the music he was opposing was a new and ominous sound called hymns. Every generation revolts against the previous generation sound, and on and on and on. But for 2,000 years, the Holy Spirit has used all kinds of music, and to insist that one style is more sacred than the other is called idolatry. It's making an idol out of a method or a style. It's idolatry. Now, realizing that I'm walking through an area filled with landmines, I want to give you some suggestions for planning music in your services. And we'll wrap it up with this, okay? Here are some of my suggestions. And then I want to give you, I'll do this. Number one, preview all your music. Preview all your music. How many of you would agree that the wrong kind of music can kill a service? Could I see your hands? Yeah. How many of you are pastors who've had to resurrect a service after bad music? Yeah, exactly. We've all been there on that one. Music is sometimes 40 to 50% of your service, and it's the first 40%. You know, I'll never forget one of the times in the first months of Saddleback Church, I had no music leader. And so the first week, we didn't have a music leader. I listened to who had the loudest voice in the crowd. And I went to that guy, his name was Ralph Bayless, and I said, you got a loud voice, will you lead music next week? He said, sure. So that was my first worship leader, just a guy found in the audience at the first week. And he was an older gentleman, and he got up and he led. Well, about 3 weeks, I like to have special music, guest music, but we didn't have any guests or special. So we were asking colleges to come and people who could sing, and do you know somebody? And one day Ralph tells me, he goes, you know, my son is a guitar player, and he's a Christian, and would you like for him to sing? I'm going, sure, why not? Because we're always looking for somebody to provide some music. And so I didn't preview the music. When he walked in, I knew I was a goner. Orange, spiked hair, about a foot tall. A dog chain around his neck. Guitar hung low. And he's walking in like this. I'm going, oh no. And then he gets up and he's going to sing right before I speak. And the song he sings is, he said, I just wrote this song. That's another one, bad one. It was a 20-minute song on nuclear disarmament. And it's kind of like this, blang, we're all gonna die. Blang, we're all gonna fry. Blang, I'm going to the sky. Blang, I'm dying 1,000 deaths. I'm gonna go, God, get me out of here. I did want to say, folks, God's not here today. Let's go home. God bless you. See you next week. And it's just like the nuclear reactor song. Never forget that. One time in the early days, Pat Boone came and sang. He lived here in the area, so he came and sang. And so a friend of mine said, how did he do? I said, well, Pat did fine. He talked too long, but he did okay. And so this friend of mine, Sam, had him for Easter service. And he said, I said, did you preview the music? He said, no. Oh, no. He said, what happened? He said, it was a disaster. He said, well, I had this huge crowd. We had 1,000 people on Easter. And Pat Boone gets up to sing, and he starts saying, I've written this new song. Actually, he leaned over to Sam before the service and said, Sam, I've written a new song. I'd like to sing it. And Sam goes, well, what's it called? And he said, well, it's called Everybody Dies. And Sam goes, well, this is Easter, Pat. You think it'll fit? He goes, oh, no, it'll fit. So Sam goes, fine, go ahead and sing it. And he said, Pat Boone got up and he started singing this song called Everybody Dies. And it goes like this. Everybody dies. Everybody dies. Rich men die, white men die, poor men die, black men die. Everybody dies. Second verse. Accountants die, truck drivers die, everybody dies. And Sam's going, I'm the one dying 1,000 deaths on stage. He said, I saw a bunch of women, 5 or 6 women, get up and go out. And he said, during this Pat Boone song, he said, my wife followed them into the restroom. And she said, every one of them had recently lost their husbands. And he goes, oh, you lost your, I lost mine, everybody dies. And he goes, the service died that day. Preview your music. Get it? Good. Now, when you preview it, you not only want to ask, is it doctrinally correct? But you want to ask questions like, do the unchurched understand this? Does it make sense? Does it use words they understand? What does it mean to people? How does it make me feel? Who's the target? Very, very important. Now, you need to understand that sometimes people will choose a song and it's got good words, but the tune doesn't fit a celebrative worship service. And so you always want to ask on a song, not just what does it say, but you want to ask, how does it make me feel? Music is God's gift for expressing emotion. By the way, music is one of the proofs against evolution because there's no reason for it. We don't need it to survive, but we have it. It is God's gift for expressing emotion. So you want to ask, how does it make me feel? Here are some other suggestions for your worship service. Number 2, speed up the tempo of the opening song. Speed up the tempo of the opening song. You don't want to start your service with, I'm just a poor wayfaring stranger, traveling through this sin and woe. And it's slow, slow, slow. The Bible says in Psalm 100, verse 2, worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs. Worship is to be a celebration, not a commiseration. We're at a festival, not a funeral. All of you have been in services that there was the first church of the Frigidaire, and the ice, they're skating up and down the ice rink to collect the offering. And I've been in church, I had to look down the front and make sure there wasn't a coffin right there in the front because everybody died, and the service had died. You want it celebratory. 1 Chronicles 15:16, David ordered the Levites to organize the singers into an orchestra, and they played loudly and joyously upon psalteries, hymns, and cymbals. Cymbals, we got that. We got cymbals. We got drums. We don't have psalteries, but we've got some of that here. A lot of songs they can be contemporary, but they still sound like a funeral march. And if you're bringing people to celebrate God's presence, remember that's the purpose, celebrate God's presence, you can drain the life out of a song by dragging the tempo of it. in the Baptist hymnal, there used to be a hymn called One Day. And it's a good song. It tells the whole life of Christ. But there's 7 verses in it. And you're just going, one day, one day, one day. And I'm going, one day I hope this song will be over. Because it just kept going on and on and on. At Saddleback, we joke about what we call our aerobic singing. That you can't sit still. We want to wake up the body by waking up the bodies there. I got this letter from an elderly person, and the final line of it said, "We particularly enjoyed the joyful music, and we want to thank you and your worship leader for stirring up our geriatric blood." Mission accomplished. All right, mission accomplished. Good deal. So, speed it up. Number 3, edit archaic terms from your songs. If you're going to use hymns, then you need to change some of the words in those hymns. Words and phrases that unbelievers wouldn't understand, like, here I raise mine Ebenezer. Good night. What's an Ebenezer? And how do you get one? And how do you raise it? And what do you do after it's raised? What in the world's an Ebenezer? All hail the power of Jesus' name. Let angels prostrate fall. Yeah, I think my uncle had that operation. Okay. I think his prostrate been falling for a long, long time. That poor angel, his prostrate's been falling for 2,000 years, okay, on this terrestrial ball. Visions of rapture, now rupture in my sight. And just going, what does that mean? You know, but an unbeliever might not know. I had a kid tell me one time, he said, hey, can we sing that songs about the deacons? I said that. He said, Hubert and Art and Everett Moore shall be. Who art and more and ever shall be? Oh, you're talking about the doxology. He thought it was a song about the deacons. Hubert and Art and Everett Moore shall be. Okay? Yeah. It's like, can we sing the song about the Ninja Turtles? What's that? Lead on, oh kinky turtle. No, it's King Eternal, not Kinky Turtle. King Eternal, not Kinky Turtle. Like that hymn about Gladly the cross-eyed bear. You talking about bear who's cross-eyed? Gladly, and that's his name, like Smokey's brother. Where Smokey the bear, this Gladly the cross-eyed bear. Or just, flip through a hymnal and ask and read the titles and go, would this make sense on Sunday? Awake my soul, stretch every nerve. Ooh, that sounds painful. Now, I know some people argue hymns are good theology. I agree, they are good theology. But I want to challenge you to write good theology to contemporary tunes. Did you know that Calvin hired 2 secular songwriters to put his theology to contemporary music? John Calvin. And the Queen of England was so incensed that he would use modern sounds that she derisively called them Calvin's Geneva jigs. So you added archaic terms. Like I said, Jehovah Jireh, what does that mean? Number 4, find the right balance in the amount of music. Either extreme can limit who you reach. You can sing too much in a service, which nobody wants to stand for 30 minutes listening to songs they don't know, to tunes they don't understand, to words they don't have any meaning to them, if he's an unbeliever. Okay, and archaic words, yeah. And, on the other hand, you can sing too less and not have the impact in that. The unchurched don't like to sing words they don't understand to tunes they've never heard. It's awkward for them. And on top of that, since so many of the contemporary songs are actually not about Jesus, they are love songs to Jesus, well, you just can't imagine a non-Christian CEO man standing singing, this is the air I breathe, I'm desperate for you, I'm lost without you, I'm helpless and hopeless without you. That's putting the cart before the horse. He can't possibly sing that song because he's not desperate for God in that moment. So you just got to be sensitive. Having too much or too little music, too little will eliminate a powerful element of service.